Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Jack and Joe show. And firstly, a huge thank you to Jack Stroudley for filling in for me last week. But we're back. Jack Kelly's not gone anywhere, but we're here to discuss all things Fulham as the international break comes to a close. So, Jack, how are you doing?
Yeah, very, very well. We're here to preview Luton Town. It feels like ages since Fulham last played. Really, it's been a long international break, and it's what we're 3 days away now from the game.
Yeah, and we were just saying off camera that that whole sort of saga regarding, and obviously you spoke about it last week, the Man City game and transfer deadline day, and then Paulina, and that's sort of going into the international break. That's all in the past now. Paulina is a Fulham player. We're playing Luton Town. The majority of our players, although we won't go into it in detail, have performed very well for their respective nations during this break. We've had goals for Bobby Reed, Jimenez, assist by Wilson, Harris, and Josh King scored for the youth teams. You know, it's been a really successful break. But this is a big game for Fulham, and there's been an argument sort of on Twitter, not a heated one or anything, of is this a must-win game? And ultimately, look, uh, the term must-win has almost been dramatized over previous years. A must-win game is one you absolutely have to win. Obviously, this isn't that, because if we don't win it, we're not going to suddenly get relegated. Nothing horrendous is going to happen. That being said, based on the new definition of must-win, which is, let's face it, slightly lower key, yeah, it's a must-win. And if we want to be a team that is not just staying up but consolidating this season, you have to be winning these home games. And last season we were exceptional against anyone that was essentially in the bottom half of the table, particularly at home. Jack, Luton have obviously played a game less than us. They've only played 3 games, and they've all been quite tough fixtures. They went to Brighton, which is never easy. They went to Chelsea, and they also played high-flying West Ham. So what do you make of them so far before heading into what you think of Fulham for this game?
I think they've been fairly unlucky in the way the fixtures have panned out and the way the Burnley game was postponed. I think if they'd have played Burnley at home, we may have seen a bit more of what they're going to be like against teams around them this season. So the game against Fulham is their first chance where they can be like, you know what, this is a team that we kind of know. We've played them before in previous seasons, albeit the last time we came to the cottage, we lost 7-0. But, that was a team that ultimately still finished in the playoffs and just lost out in a semi-final to Huddersfield. So I'm expecting a really tough game here. This is no walk in the park. You see Luton on the fixture list and go, "Oh, that's a 3 points." No, it's not. It's not necessarily guaranteed. I think there's a lot to be liked about Rob Edwards and what he's doing at Luton. I think that there has been spells in all 3 of their games so far where they've shown promise, but just lack that quality when it comes to the final ball, or the likes of Carlton Morris or Adebayo up front. But I think we're in for a tough one here, and I don't think this is going to be, let's stroll down to the cottage, watch a 2-0 win, and then go home happy. This is going to be a real fight and a tough game. And before we get into really talking about team news and stuff, we must mention our sponsors for this season, Green King Sport. Thank you so much for the sponsorship this season. Joe, do you want to tell us a little bit more about what they've got going on?
100%, it's great stuff. So yeah, as Jack said, for the whole of the 2023 and 24 season, Fulhamish is sponsored by Green King Sport, which we're hugely grateful for. And this is where football is more than a game. Green King Sports venues are showing every televised Fulham fixture over the course of the season. We've had some more news on a couple of those recently, the first of which will obviously be the now sold out West London derby against Chelsea.
Yeah, and it's quite easy to sit at home and put on a stream, but get your mates together and just go down the pub, go down your local Green King, get close to the action. Green King has just recently launched the Green King Sports Instagram page, which will be home to which will be home for the fans. And if you want to follow, give it a follow, and you can see everything that's going on there. So let's get on with Luton at home. Team news.
Team news. It's tricky, isn't it? Because Paulina's back, and Paulina is a Fulham player. I don't want to get into the ins and outs of that, but ultimately he should be starting. You would hope that after the international break that Lukic is back fit. You would also hope that Kearney's okay. We've obviously got 2 new signings to bed in as well in Fode Ballo-Touré and Iwobi. Obviously, the former is probably not going to start, but might be involved on the bench because Robinson should have his place locked down. But Iwobi would be very interesting if he is back from his knock that he picked up for Everton at Villa, I think it was, earlier in the season, just after we beat them 1-0. So there's a lot of players that are in contention here because that Man City game, it did really feel like we'd gone from the quite strong squad depth that we'd finally picked up after a few signings to bare bones all over again. And when Kearney went off injured early doors and Luke Harris had to come on and fill in for 3/4 of the game and did a good job, in my opinion, in a very difficult situation for him. We now have that depth back, hopefully. So in terms of the team that I would play against Luton, I think Leno in goal speaks for itself. And I think that the back 4, there's only one place that's really up for debate. So Tete will be at right back, Robinson left back, and Diop at right centre back. But the left centre back is one where I really do think there's a debate to be had between Bassi and Tim Ream. My personal opinion is that Bassi should get the nod. And there's a few reasons for this. The first one is that I think that Bassi is our long-term future. Second is I thought he performed very well against Arsenal. And third, and this is actually a little bit harsh, especially when Bassi did get sent off in his last game, is that I think that for a couple of the Man City goals, and it is Man City, Ream could have done better. And in particular, I'm thinking about the third goal when he did make a slight mistake. He'll know he did. And ultimately, when you got an understudy like Bassi, I think that's when he comes in and takes his place. Midfield 3, Paulina, he's got to come back in. It's a no-brainer. We've kept him. He's a Fulham player. He can sulk on social media all he likes. If he's not sulking on the pitch, happy days. That's all I want. Don't sulk too much, though, please. Or shall I say, his brother, please don't sulk. I should mention Paulina's actually done nothing. It is his brother. Yeah. But anyway, the 2 that would go next to him, I think that we should go quite attacking here. And for that reason, I'd go Lukic ahead of Harrison Reed, and I'd go with Andreas Pereira. And then the 3 up front, Jimenez has been banging form for Mexico this international break. On the right, I'd have Wilson, who had a great game for Wales, as we said. On the left, I think you go with Willian for this one. Need someone that can really unlock that defence. But I would love it, Jack. I would love it, Kevin Keegan style, if Iwobi was involved. What about you?
Yeah. It feels as though Iwobi was not in the squad on international duty, I believe. Or maybe
he didn't even get called up because of his knock. So he's been at Motspur Park the whole time.
This is an interesting one. I think going with Lukic over Reed is a bold shout. One that I think is probably doable. I think Lukic has been really, really good this season, and that's no knock on Harrison Reed. I feel like every week when I'm not putting Harrison Reed in my 11, I'm having to justify why he's not there. But I've been very impressed with Lukic, and I think Andres Pereira in the 10 is important. Wilson, and it'd be good to see Willian back, wouldn't it? It feels like it's been a while since we've seen him play. I think he came on again. He started against Everton, then came off at half time. Was that the last time we saw him play? I'm not quite sure.
I think he did come on at the end of the City game, but I feel like it was a bit of a non-event at that point.
I was at the ground by then.
So you haven't seen him since Everton, Jack, in that case.
No, absolutely. It's just been a bit of a strange period for Fulham. It feels as though, when you're in an international break, it's not like the club are tweeting every minute of every hour about certain things, but it's usually about who's been playing in international football. But I don't know if it's just me, but I do feel a slight disconnect with the club right now, just in terms of fan engagement and just sort of getting everyone up for the game on Saturday. I know obviously you can't sort of G up a fan 10 days before a game against Luton Town, but maybe in the next few days we'll see it ramp up a bit. But I don't know, it's just been a bit of a strange period where fans are still quite upset about what happened at the back end of last month on deadline day, and we haven't seen Paulina back at Motspur Park yet, and there's just a few things that have just irked myself and maybe a few others as well. We don't really have an awful lot to talk about today because it's just previewing Luton. But maybe we can just dive into that a little bit. What are you expecting from the game? What are you expecting from Luton? I know you asked me that earlier, so I might as well bounce the question right back to you. That Ross Barkley, Chong, Adebayo, Carlton Morris, they have some really good players, and it's just whether we will see the idea of Luton and then being in the Premier League sort of come to life a little bit more over the next few weeks after a tough start.
Yeah, and there was a really interesting interview with Rob Edwards on the Friday Night Football just before they lost at Chelsea, where he essentially said, I think it was Gary Neville that posed the question to him. They were saying, the way that you've set up this season has been slightly different to in the Championship. At that point, they'd only played one game, is worth pointing out, at Brighton. So, it's hard to say. But he was saying that his strategy for this season would be to set up depending on the opposition. Which I think is understandable when you are one of the lower teams in the league. We certainly found that last season. The way we set up against Liverpool at home first day of the season was different to how we set up against Brentford at home 2 weeks later, when we were far more attacking and far more possession based, I think it's fair to say. Whereas against Liverpool, we were very direct. So I'm not sure what to expect from Luton. It is worth saying that all of their games have been reasonably tight until key moments of the game. And by that, I mean, against Brighton, they were 2-1 down until there was about 10 minutes left. And then a couple of individual errors meant that the game went out of sight. Similar against Chelsea, they had a great chance to equalise, and then Chelsea took the game away from them. And against West Ham, they probably should have had a penalty in the last minute to potentially claim a point in that one from what was a tough game against West Ham, who have performed very well this season. So, there's not going to be any walkover here, and I'm expecting a very physical battle. I think Carlton Morris up top will cause our centre-backs a lot of problems. And I think it'll all be about cutting off the supply to their two wing-backs and subsequent balls into the box and potential set pieces. I really do think that we just need to start this game quick from the off and really go at them. I think that defensively they are shaky. And I think that this is a case of where we need to get our shooting boots on. We need to try and get Jimenez's first goal to kick on, etc. But I'm expecting a tough battle here. And I want to put it out there right now. I would just take any sort of 3 points on the weekend. And that's not out of pure desperation because, ultimately this is the 5th game of the season. But at this point, I just think it's about racking up enough points that we're in a comfortable position, in particular ahead of January, where the likelihood is that Paulina will go. Let's face it. So it's all about getting into as comfortable a position as early as possible. And this next 4 games, I would say, excluding the Carabao Cup, it's a real chance to pick up points with the 3 home games against Luton on the weekend, Chelsea and Sheffield United, and away to Palace as well. It's a real opportunity where I think we need at least a couple of wins and a couple of draws, 8 points, something like that. Mm-hmm. That would put us in a great position in the table, Jack. It's too early to start looking at the table or anything like that. What is your score prediction for Saturday's game?
I'm going to go with Fulham to win by 2-1 in a fashion where we take the lead, we get pegged back, and it's all a bit, in the second half, we get pegged back and it's all a bit doom and gloom. And then we poach a winner, not right at the end, but near the end, maybe 80th minute, 79th minute, something like that. And goal scorers, I'm going to go with Harry Wilson, and then a winner from Jimenez. I've got to back the man. It's actually, I think, the first time in a while. It's certainly Craven Cottage. I'm not going to be there on Saturday. I feel quite sad about it. I've been called up to West Ham against Manchester City, which I'm not complaining about whatsoever. What a game that's going to be, by the way. But I'm not going to be at the game, so I will be watching from afar. So maybe next week you're going to have to lead proceedings on the Jack and Joe show.
I mean, we've done that before, Jack. There's been plenty of games you've gone to that I haven't, so I think we're finally evening it up a bit.
Yeah, this isn't. Obviously, work takes priority here, and I'm looking forward to going to the London Stadium because it should be a cracking game. Man City, of course, top of the league. So, Joe, score prediction.
So I actually agree with you, Jack. I'm going 2-1. Scorers, I differ slightly. I do think Jimenez will get off the mark. And I really, really hope he does as well. I'm going to go for Willian to get one as well. I can see him cutting
Nice.
in on his right foot, going in the Putney end, first half. I think I can change it.
Yeah.
Well, they haven't got Roy Hodgson in charge, so hopefully not.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just 3 points in this one, please, Fulham. That's all we can ask for. And then next week we've got a tough game at Crystal Palace, which obviously we won convincingly last season in quite strange circumstances with them going down to 9 men, but ultimately we were well in control before they went down to 10 men, let alone 9. But yeah, I think the key thing here is 3 points, and what I'd love is this weekend to sort of quash a few things. And by that, I mean Paulina not seeming to be too discontent, to be involved and to be just himself, to perform as he normally does. For Willian to be slightly reintegrated, for Jimenez to score would be fantastic. And it would be great to see those 2 new signings, as I say, involved at least on the bench. But Jack, I'm excited to be there at a sold-out Craven Cottage. I know that you're not there on the weekend, but you will be there going forward. And surely you've got to have a stream up or something of the
Just listen to Joe and Jim.
early goal. Well, there you go. There you go.
Well, no, I think I've got to be on duty at the London Stadium. But I will be keeping a very, very close eye on things. I'm sure. I'll be very interested to see what Marco Silva's got to say on Friday as well in his press conference, because it feels as though we haven't really heard from him. Obviously, since the window's shut, we haven't heard from him apart from a post-match press conference against Man City. He's had a couple of weeks to sort of mull things over, maybe let out his emotions of what he thought or how he thought deadline day went. Yeah. And now he's obviously got his squad. He's got his 25-man squad, and this is going to be very interesting to see now how he approaches it. People are already talking about Paulina going in January. That's obviously quite frustrating. Just let us get on with the season. Let's not let off the field things sort of distract us from the job in hand. And yeah, I don't think I'm going to be there on Friday, but I'm very interested to see what he has to say and how he comes across and his demeanor towards this squad, Joe.
Yeah, and I think, as he said, we heard him in the post-match City press conference, but that was sort of distracted by the VAR mishap, which took most of his rage, rightfully so. I mean, I think I know what the first question posed to him on Friday will be, other than team news, is about Paulina, and I'm very interested to see how he deals with that, because ultimately this is a tough job for Silva now. You've got a player that, let's face it, had his, I don't want to make this the Paulina show, but he had a dream move, potentially, almost in the bag. And to have that pulled away from you, I'm as Fulham biased as they come, but, you can understand from the player's point of view that it might be a little bit hard to refocus. What I want to see is him just getting his head down and going, you know what, I'm a Fulham player. I've got 4 years left on my deal if Fulham decide not to pull the trigger on a 5th. Ultimately, I want to see if I'm not going to bash Paulina here, but I want to see if his passion for the club remains. And I really, really hope it does. And I'm optimistic that it does, but I want to see that from Saturday.
I think the fans have a part to play in this. Sing his chants, sort of get behind him, make him feel like he's welcome, and he's still welcome at Craven Cottage. I'd imagine he starts on Saturday. We sort of need him to start, and just sort of get behind him and make reassure him that the fans have got his back, Marco's got his back, the team's got his back. So when it comes to January, maybe he goes, I don't fancy the knockout stage of the Champions League. I fancy mid-table battle.
Actually, that's what we need, isn't it? We need Bayern Munich to get knocked out in the group stages,
yes,
so he doesn't want to go.
Great shout. I mean, I personally would like to see like a Bayern Munich versus Real Madrid Champions League final where Jude Bellingham is up against Harry Kane and battling for that trophy. Yeah. I think that would be amazing. But I think that might be up for today, Joe. Really,
I think so. Yeah, it's all on the Luton game, guys. And it is a big game, and I'm really looking forward to it. Obviously, we've only been at home once this season. That was the horrible afternoon when we lost to Brentford, and then Mitrovic went. So it will be tough for an afternoon to be as bad as that, because even results-wise, we're not going to be selling our star striker. So let's hope for a good day, a good atmosphere, and the start of us kicking on this season.
Of course, the last time we played at the Cottage, we played Spurs and we played really, really well. I mean, let's not
True.
forget that we actually played very, very well against Spurs. Just to reiterate something, sorry, by the way, the Green King Instagram page, which will be the home for fan content, deals, and competition throughout the season. So drop them a follow, and you won't just be the first to know about all this. You'll be helping Fulhamish out as well. So just reiterating the sponsorship for Green King. Thank you so much for the sponsorship. Joe, thanks so much for being here. Guys, enjoy your time at Craven Cottage. Hopefully it goes well. We'll see you next week as we preview the pride of South London, Crystal Palace. I will be at that game in the press, actually, I think, which will be good fun. Tapping my feet to all the Palace.
Oh, unbearable. Get it. Let's end the video now.
Thanks so much for watching. And, well, come on, Fulham.